Hey guys, this is Robert with the Recreational Woodworker and the recreationalwoodworker.com. We help you build great furniture. Today I'm going to show you how to mount a Festool 1400 router into an aluminum or phenolic resin router plate. The first thing you're wondering is, why am I doing this? Well, the short answer is my old Craftsman Professional router that I've had for many years burned up on me and through a bearing or something. My son and I are gonna crack it open later and take it apart and just kind of see what's inside, and we might fix it for fun. But I have work to do, so I need to get a router set up in a router table somehow, some way, so that I can finish doing what I'm doing. And I haven't done any research to figure out like what kind of router motor, router lift setup I want to go with now that that router is pretty much burned up. But what I can do is make this fit into this. So I went to the hardware store and took my router in there with me and figured out that a M6 metric screw, so M6-1, these are 20 millimeters long, I've got some longer ones as well, fit in the mounting holes for the Festool 1400 router. Just like that. And so that works just fine. So now I need to basically drill out my router plate to hold this router. This one has a bunch of holes in it already, so I'm going to see if some of them align and maybe a happy accident I'll get lucky. If not, I'm just going to drill out some new holes. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to do, it's essentially just, I'm going to go ahead and plunge the router down so I can kind of get close to the center of the bit so I can kind of see what I'm doing. Lock that down. And now I'm just going to kind of position this to see if I can get my holes to line up. And surprisingly I can, but it's off center and I don't want it off center. So let me show you how I can drill out some new holes. I want my router to sit like this, that way I can kind of adjust the height in it on the fly. That's going to be kind of hard, but this way I can easily turn it on and off underneath the table. It's not quite centered, but I think if I can just get it mostly centered, I'll be happy with that. And perfection doesn't really matter in this case. So if you're going to fit any router to a router table, you need to find its mounting location. This router has 2, some have 3, some have 4. Or you can make do with your own by using the existing screws. What I'm doing is I'm removing this plate, and then I'm going to use that as a template. There we go, right there. Alright, so I'm going to use this as kind of my center point. And you can see how everything is kind of off center. And that looks about, no. And what I'm doing is I'm just seeing if there's any possible way to get this centered with the existing holes that are here. And it doesn't really look like it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get this centered, and I'm going to drill 2 holes. Now this is a self-centering bit, and it has a metal bit on there. You wouldn't want to use a words escape me, a wood bit on this. You wouldn't want to use a brad point wood bit. So I'm going to get it approximately centered and trying to make sure there's no holes that I need to worry about. And that's the hard thing, is there's a lot of holes in this guy, and so I need to figure out where there's none so that I can get the plate in here and get a good bite on it. So it's looking like I'm gonna do this, and this might be slightly off center, but I'm probably gonna have to remove this thing anyway. So what I'm gonna do, I've got that pressed down, I've eyeballed my center point, and that is sort of kind of not really drilling out, so I'm gonna speed that up. There we go. And now I'm gonna come over here, same thing. Okay, so that's centered my holes. I'm not really worried about the orientation of my router because this plate can go in either any way. Now I need to drill out a big enough hole for these screws to fit through. This is a 6mm, so I'm gonna try a 1/4 inch and see how that looks. Here's a 1/4 inch, here is my bolt. That looks like it's just barely bigger, and then I'll just countersink it with a countersink bit. So that should work just fine. And my goal is to go small and work bigger if I need to. There we go. Now I kind of drilled into my workbench here, and I don't really want to any more than that. Here we go. So just some scrap wood that I have. I can see my 2 holes right there. And now I can just use my pilot hole that I drilled. There we go. Alright, went ahead and reattached my plate here, and now I'm just gonna test fit it. There's lots of holes in this one. In case you're wondering, I believe this is a Rockler plate. I don't really remember, but it's just one of the mini standard aluminum plates, and it's what I had. I'm using what I have. You can also use, I'd say, like a 1/2 inch piece of good Baltic birch plywood would work too in a pinch. But that's what I'm using today. So I'm gonna get my holes aligned. And it's not perfectly centered, but it is, you know what, it's close enough for horseshoes and hand grenades, right? So now I'm gonna run this guy in and just test, make sure the threads line up, make sure I have clearance on everything. All right, we're good there. And let me try to make sure, yeah, so about right there. And it's a little bit off center. Okay, so that's good. And I don't know what I did with my bag of screws. Ah, there they are. Okay, so we're good here. We've got all of our travel. We can come all the way down, tighten it up. We're good. Now I just need to create a countersink in that spot, in those 2 screw locations. And I know this isn't an ideal way to use this particular router. It's made for handheld use, but sometimes you got to do what you got to do. And I asked this question on many forums on how to do this, and I didn't find an answer. So hopefully this gives you the answer you're looking for. For some reason, I'm not able to get the countersink. Oh, there it goes. Below flush. Just slightly below flush is all you need. Alright, so I got my bit installed. Made sure it'll clear the height I need it to clear. And now, I'm just putting in my screws, making sure this is aligned. Again, I'm slightly off center. It's fine. Now, if you were to use like a piece of plywood or something, it would be easy enough to put like a 1/4 inch up spiral bit in or something like that, and just simply poke through and get perfectly centered in your board and then fit it to your router table. But you know what? That's just not how this particular endeavor worked out. So now I'm just gonna thread these guys in. These are M6s, by the way. That was the hardest thing to figure out. Many people on the forums told me M5s, and that was wrong. I should have bought more than one. I had to make 2 trips to the store. But I don't want to buy a Home Depot router. I mean, they're probably fine, but I want to get something like a Triton or something for my router table, or get like a good lift or something. So this will do what I need it to do for now. And I bet you I'll get some halfway decent dust collection as well. Or not. I don't want to tear up my dust collection sleeve. So that is future Robert's problem. Alright, so let's go ahead and zero this guy out. So if I'm going to zero it, I'm going to plunge it down till it touches. I'm going to push that guy down right there. Push it down. Then I'm going to lock it right there. And oh, that is zeroed. So I do have a micro adjust on the plunge. Put that at 0, and now I can raise this up to my depth, but I'll have to set the depth like this and then put it in the table and then lock it in place. It's going to be a little bit of a pain, but we can make it work. Let's go do it. Alright, so the hardest thing with this setup is to do your setups for your depths and stuff. Luckily I have a cabinet door and drawer front jig, so I'm just going to plunge it down, align my bit, get it in there, and then lock it down. And so that gets me where I need to be for my door faces. So that's easy enough. Again, this isn't a perfect solution. This is a you'd have to get back to work solution. So now I'm just going to drop this down into the router table. You can see where I already routed it out for my old router. And I have a super basic router fence. Literally 2 boards of 3/4 inch plywood that have been waxed. You can tell that I've used this several times for this operation. Alright, and now just set my depth of cut right there, right there. Need to move over a little bit. There we go. Alright. Get my depth of cut right. Get my position right. So right there is what I need. Right there is my fence. There we go. Right there. Okay. Lock it down. We're in business. So that is my bit. I had a hunk of wood in there. Making sure it's clean, and it's not even plugged in yet, but this is kind of the setup that I do. Right there. For dust collection, I come above. I can't hook up my the Festool thing in there because of the width of the bit. Alright, so I have everything set up. I've got my scrap wood here that's just some alder I have laying around. And I'm going to go ahead and turn on the router and test this to make sure everything's working right before I go into my finished pieces. So I'm going to reach under here, pull the trigger, and then push the button to lock it on. And that looks a little too low. I typically like it a little bit more centered than that, so I'm going to raise it up and go. Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I know it was kind of short to the point. This is not an ideal solution for this router. I'm absolutely going to buy a new router for my router lift. I might try to fix my old one, but it was never that great of a router anyway, so I'm going to get a better router just from a router table. But sometimes you have to do what you have to do to get the job done. In my situation, it's figure out how to mount this Festool router into my router table. It's a little bit finicky. It takes some adjustment to get right, but in a pinch, you can do it. M6 screws, about 20 millimeters long, drilled out in aluminum plate, or you could do some 1/2 inch plywood, something like that. Drop it into a router table, and Bob's your uncle. So that's what we did today. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe, like this video if you liked it, dislike it if you dislike it. And next time you hear someone ask them the question, can you mount a Festool 1400 to a router plate? You can link them to this video and show them how. Alright, thanks guys. See you later. Bye.